A young boy from Pennsylvania vanished in 1991 during his own birthday party. His mother left him playing with the other guests, and when she went to check on him, he was gone. Disappeared without a trace. But 10 years later, she's browsing a yard sale when she spots something eerily familiar on a table. A personal item belonging to her missing son. Something she was never supposed to see again. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the tree-lined streets of Maple Hollow, Pennsylvania. It was one of those perfect autumn Saturdays in September, when the leaves had just begun to turn, painting the suburban landscape in warm hues of amber and gold. The town, known for its white picket fences and seasonal fairs, maintained that small-town charm that made neighbors wave at each other from their porches. Elaine Whitmore sat in her living room, staring at the same spot on the wall where a family photo once hung. She had removed— "I don't know if I'm up for this," Elaine said, but she was already reaching for her jacket. "You need this outing," Donna insisted, her voice gentle but firm. "It's been 10 years, Elaine. You can't keep living like this." 10 years. The words hung heavy in the air. 10 years since Nathan, her 8-year-old son, had vanished from his own birthday party. The case had gone cold long ago. The police had no leads left to pursue. And Elaine had been living in a perpetual state of grief and tension ever since. "I've always liked—" The same oak trees lined the streets. The same houses stood with their well-maintained gardens. Time had moved forward for everyone else, but for her, it had stopped that terrible day. They drove the short distance to Ash Hollow, where the Lavender Grove Community Yard Sale was already in full swing. It was a neighborhood-wide event, with multiple families setting up tables on their lawns and driveways, eager to rid themselves of unwanted belongings. "Look at the size of this," Donna marveled as they parked. "The whole neighborhood must be participating." They began strolling through the sprawling sale, taking their time as they browsed the various items on display. Vintage clothing hung on makeshift racks, old books were stacked in cardboard boxes, and kitchen gadgets from decades past gleamed in the afternoon light. Elaine had to admit it felt good to be out. The fresh air, the buzz of conversation around them, the normalcy of it all was oddly comforting. They stopped at several tables, examining items, making small talk with the sellers. Then Elaine saw it. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. Among a collection of children's toys and books on one table, something blue caught her attention. She frowned and moved closer, her heart beginning to race. It was a Game Boy device, the color unmistakably teal. But it wasn't just any Game Boy. As she picked it up with trembling hands, she saw the 3 Pokémon stickers, a Pikachu in the center, and 2 others flanking it. "Nathan," she whispered, her voice catching. "What is it?" Donna asked, noticing her friend's sudden— "They're identical. He loved Pokémon so much the memories came flooding back." Nathan's school friend had given him the Game Boy for his 7th birthday, just a year before he disappeared. He had carried it everywhere, and she remembered the daily struggle of convincing him not to bring it to school. "Are you sure?" Donna asked gently. "I'm 100% sure," Elaine said, clutching the device. "No one else could possibly have this exact Game Boy with these same stickers in this exact pattern. Can I help you, ladies?" An elderly man approached them, wearing a friendly smile that quickly faded when he saw Elaine's distressed expression. "Where did you get this?" Elaine asked, her voice trembling. She was shaking so badly she almost dropped the Game Boy. The man reached out instinctively and caught it before it fell. "Whoa, there! Are you all right?" "This is my son's," Elaine said, her voice rising. "This is my missing son's Game Boy. Where is he? Where's my boy? Please, if you know where Nathan is, please tell me so I can see him again." Her trembling voice and desperate plea began attracting attention from nearby sellers and shoppers. People turned to stare, whispering among themselves. The elderly man's expression shifted from confusion to hesitation and then to fear. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, pulling the Game Boy from her reaching hands and stuffing it into his jacket pocket. "No," Ella panicked. His behavior only confirmed her suspicions. "That's my son's." "Why are you hiding it?" Ella calmed down. Donna tried to intervene, placing a hand on her friend's shoulder. But Elaine was beyond consolation. The stress of the moment, combined with 10 years of grief, overwhelmed her. She lost her balance and fell to the ground. Gasps erupted from the gathered crowd. "I'm calling the cops," the elderly man announced, pulling out his phone. Within 5 minutes, a police cruiser arrived. A young officer stepped out and approached the scene. "What's going on here?" The elderly man spoke first. "This woman started panicking, claiming this Game Boy I'm selling belongs to her son. She has no evidence and tried to take it from me." "Sir, may I see the device?" the officer requested. The man crossed his arms. "Legally, I don't have to show you anything. This is my property. I have rights to privacy." "Sir, I'm asking you to cooperate," the officer said more firmly. "I know my rights," the man insisted, keeping his hand protectively over his jacket pocket. Elaine, still on the ground with Donna's help, looked up at the officer. "Please call the detective working on my son's case, Nathan Whitmore. He disappeared 10 years ago." The officer radioed for backup and to contact the detective. Within minutes, more police cars arrived along with an unmarked sedan. Detective Morrison, a man in his 50s with graying hair, stepped out and immediately approached Elaine. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said gently. "What's happening?" "The Game Boy," Elaine said, pointing at the elderly man. "He has Nathan's Game Boy, the blue one with 3 Pokemon stickers." Detective Morrison's expression grew serious. He turned to the elderly man. "Sir, I'm Detective Morrison. I've been working the Nathan Whitmore case for 10 years. The boy was 8 when he vanished. He'd be 18 now. We have a detailed list of his personal belongings that went missing with him, including his favorite toy, a blue Game Boy with 3 Pokemon stickers." He produced a folder from his car and pulled out old photographs. "These are pictures of Nathan and his Game Boy. Now, I'm going to need you to hand over that device so we can compare it." One of the other officers suddenly spoke up. "Wait, is that Walter Griggs? Sergeant Walter Griggs?" The elderly man straightened slightly. The officer continued. "Sir, you were a respected police sergeant here in Ash Hollow. You know our procedures." With obvious reluctance, Walter Griggs reached into his pocket and handed over the Game Boy. Detective Morrison took it carefully, comparing it to the photographs. The resemblance was unmistakable. "Where did you get this, Mr. Griggs?" the detective asked. "I bought it at a flea market years ago," Walter said quickly. "That's bullshit," Elaine exclaimed. Donna still supporting her. "He has something to do with my son's disappearance." "Ma'am, please," Detective Morrison said. Then to Walter, "We're going to need to search your property." "Fine," Walter said, his jaw tight. "Do what you need to do." The officers began with Walter's car and the boxes he'd brought to the yard sale. They methodically went through everything, but found nothing suspicious. "We'll need to search your home as well," Detective Morrison said. "Will you cooperate?" Walter sighed. "Whatever, but I don't want that woman." He pointed at Elaine on my property. The group made their way to their vehicles. Detective Morrison helped Elaine and Donna into his car. Walter led the procession to his house just a block away and around the corner, the police cars following behind. As they drove the shore, its white siding and black shutters giving nothing away about what secrets might lie within. "Wait here," Detective Morrison instructed Elaine and Donna as the officers prepared to enter the house. Elaine and Donna remained in Detective Morrison's car outside. Through the windows, they could see officers moving methodically through the rooms, checking closets, examining corners, looking for any sign that might connect this place to Nathan's disappearance. "It's going to be okay," Donna whispered, squeezing Elaine's hand. Elaine couldn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the house, watching every movement. No evidence of a young boy having been here or currently living here. Zero evidence of any kind. Elaine's heart sank. She had been so sure, so certain that finding Nathan's Game Boy meant they were close to finding him. The detective produced a folder and showed her official documents. Walter Griggs was indeed a police sergeant, retired with full honors. Officer Chen, the one who had recognized Walter earlier, approached them. "Ma'am, if I may speak subjectively, Mr. Griggs was well respected in this small town throughout the 70s and 80s. I worked with him briefly before he retired. I can't believe he would harm any child." But they walked back toward the house where Walter stood on his porch, arms crossed, looking every bit the wronged citizen. "Mr. Griggs," Detective Morrison said, "we'd like your permission to keep the Game Boy as potential evidence." Walter waved his hand dismissively. "Take it. I have no use for it." He looked directly at Elaine. "I was about to sell it anyway. Would have sold it to you if you hadn't been so offensive and accused me of terrible things. That's my son's." Elaine said, her voice steadier now, calmer than before, but still carrying an edge of suspicion. "It's—" She glanced at Detective Morrison and saw from his expression that he had noticed it too. That small acknowledgement helped her stay calm rather than panic again. "Mrs. Whitmore," Detective Morrison said, "would you follow us to the station to submit your official statement?" Elaine nodded. The officer taking her statement typed everything carefully, occasionally asking for clarification. When they finished, she signed several documents, her hand cramping from the repetitive motion. "I want to see the Game Boy again," she said suddenly. The officer looked uncertain, but made a call. A few minutes later, a forensic technician appeared with the device in an evidence bag. "Let's check it together," the technician said kindly. She was a young woman with gentle eyes who seemed to understand Elaine's need to see it work. They went to a lab room where the technician— "It's his favorite game. He took it everywhere." She looked around at the others, urgency rising in her tone. "Surely they can trace something from this, can't they?" Detective Morrison had joined them. "Mrs. Whitmore, this device could have landed in Mr. Griggs' hands in so many ways. Maybe Nathan left it somewhere and someone found it, then sold it at that flea market. These things are very durable." "It's been 10 years, Elaine said, her voice breaking. 10 years and we haven't had a single real lead. The case went cold. But today, surely this means something. There must be something you can do." The forensic technician placed a comforting hand on Elaine. She watched as they carefully repackaged the Game Boy, treating it with the reverence it deserved as possibly the only link to her missing son. "You should go home and rest," Detective Morrison said when they finished. "This has been an emotionally exhausting day. We can have an officer escort you." Elaine considered the offer. She was tired, more tired than she'd been in years. The hope and disappointment of the day had drained her completely. "Yes," she said quietly. "Thank you." As she sat in the back of the police car heading home, Elaine couldn't shake the feeling that Walter Griggs knew more than he was saying. That hesitation when he almost said son instead of niece played over and over in her mind. But Elaine barely heard him. Her mind was still at that yard sale, still holding that Game Boy, still seeing those 3 Pokémon stickers that she remembered Nathan placing so carefully, his little tongue poking out in concentration. "Here we are, ma'am," the officer said, pulling up to her house. Elaine stepped out of the police car and thanked the officer again before heading inside her home at Maple Hollow. The moment the door closed behind her, exhaustion hit her like a physical force. Her legs felt weak, and she had to lean against the wall for support. She made her way to the kitchen, her movements automatic as she filled the kettle and set it on the stove. While waiting for the water to boil, she slumped into a chair and put her head in her hands. What was supposed to be a calm day out with Donna had turned into a complete disaster. The more she thought about it, the more guilt crept in. Had she reacted too excessively? Made an unnecessary scene? She pictured all those people at the yard sale, staring at her as she fell to the ground, watching as she accused an elderly retired police officer of terrible things. The kettle whistled, and she poured the hot water over a tea bag, watching the color seep out and darken the water. She took a sip, barely Ella, Donna answered on the second ring. "Are you okay? How did it go at the station?" "Are you still at that yard sale?" Elaine asked, ignoring the question. "Yes, but I'm..." Elaine checked her watch. It was around 3:00 p.m. The yard sale would be winding down by now. As Donna parked the car, they could see that many of the sellers were indeed packing up. They walked toward where the yard sale was taking place, and Elaine spotted Walter Griggs at his car, loading boxes into the trunk. His movements were sharp, aggressive, and even from a distance, she could see he looked pissed and annoyed. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Donna asked one more time. "Yes," Elaine said firmly, though her heart was racing. They approached Walter at his car. He saw them coming and straightened up, his face darkening. "What again?" "I shouldn't have made such a scene. I'm sorry." Walter stared at her for a long moment. His expression didn't soften much, and he clearly wasn't fully accepting her apology. "I hope the neighbors didn't get the wrong idea after what happened this morning," he said coldly. "I've lived here peacefully for years. I don't need this kind of drama." "I understand," Elaine said quietly. "I'm truly sorry." Walter slammed his trunk shut. "Now go. I need to grab the rest of my stuff from the sales table." He walked away without another word, leaving Elaine and Donna standing by his car. They returned to their own vehicle in the parking lot. "Well, you tried," Donna said gently as they sat in the car. A man who looked to be in his late 20s or early 30s stepped out and approached Walter, who had returned with more items. "That's interesting," Donna murmured. They watched as Walter roughly shoved a heavy box toward the younger man, speaking to him in what was clearly an angry or upset tone. The box wasn't taped shut, and when Walter shoved it, several items tumbled out onto the ground, what looked like game cards and children's toy cars. The younger man bent down to gather them, hastily putting them back into the box. Donna rolled down her window just enough, and fragments of conversation drifted toward them on the breeze. I don't care," Walter's voice carried. Not mine." A gust of wind brought more words. He stomped away with the box toward the Volkswagen, clearly upset by whatever had been said. Elaine and Donna exchanged meaningful looks. "What do you think that was about?" Elaine whispered. They continued watching as Walter returned to cleaning up the last of his items from the yard sale table. The younger man had loaded the box into his car and was already pulling away. "Maybe that's Walter's son," Elaine said thoughtfully. "I heard him say something about Mother." "I think so, too," Donna agreed. "But why did he give him just that one box?" Elaine's mind was racing. It looked like the box was filled with children's toys. Maybe it... "I don't want this to just be another dead end. Not when we might finally have something. If we called police, I don't think they would take us seriously." Donna looked at her friend's desperate face and was clearly moved. She sighed heavily. "Fine," she said. "We'll see where he goes. Maybe talk to him if he's willing. But we won't upset anyone or get onto anyone's property." "Okay." "Yes," Elaine agreed immediately. "Thank you, Donna." "Thank you." Donna started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, heading in the direction the green Volkswagen had gone. It wasn't hard to catch up to the green Volkswagen. The distinctive car was easy to spot among the more conventional vehicles on the road. Donna followed it carefully, maintaining a normal driving distance so as not to... There, Elaine pointed as the Volkswagen's turn signal began blinking. He's turning. They watched as the car pulled into a parking lot and stopped outside what looked like a spooky-themed novelty store. The building was painted black with purple trim, and even from the road, they could see Halloween decorations in the windows. The store was located close to the Maple Hollow outskirts in a more commercial area. Damn, Donna muttered. She had missed the turn, stuck in the wrong lane, making a sudden turn. But as they neared the parking lot, they saw the man exiting the store. He was carrying 2 large shopping bags and walking quickly toward his car. Before Donna could even consider pulling into the parking lot, the green Volkswagen suddenly reversed out of its spot at high speed. It came so close to their car that Donna had to brake hard to avoid a collision. "What the hell?" Donna exclaimed. "Did you see that? Who drives like that? Just reversed without even looking." The Volkswagen sped out of... The barriers were coming down just as the Volkswagen sped through. Donna had to stop, blocked by the lowered gates. "Oh no," Elaine said in frustration as a long freight train began rolling by. Car after car of the train passed, each one feeling like an eternity. "It's a long one," Donna observed, drumming her fingers on the steering wheel. They waited in silence, both knowing that with each passing second, the Volkswagen was getting farther away. Finally, the train passed, and the crossing barriers lifted. Donna accelerated through the crossing and continued down the road, both women scanning for any sign of the green car. Donna pulled over to the side of the road. "I'm sorry, Elaine. Between the train and that intersection, there was no way to keep up." Elaine sighed and leaned back in her seat. "It's okay. We followed him far enough. Maybe it's nothing. It's silly that we followed him all the way out here. Actually, we should have just told the police." She looked out the window at the sky. "It's sunset soon. We should head back." Donna nodded as she turned the car around. "We'll tell the police about the man. Looked to me like Walter's son. They can ask the man about it." Her expression softened. "Actually," she said thoughtfully, "maybe we should stop by since we're here anyway. We planned for a day out, remember? But it got interrupted." The interior was unlike any store Elaine had seen in their quiet suburban area. The shelves were stocked with an array of horror costumes, from classic vampires and werewolves. It was made of shimmery purple fabric with silver stars scattered across it. "This is perfect," Donna said, heading toward the cashier counter. "She'll be thrilled." They reached the counter, but the employee was still outside smoking. Through the window, they could see him taking his time, seemingly in no hurry to return. Donna placed the costume on the raised section of the cashier counter and sighed. "I'll go call him." But as she turned to leave, the slippery fabric of the costume slid backward, falling behind the counter onto the cashier's workspace. "Just let it be," Donna said, already heading for the door. "I'll get him." But Elaine, ever polite, decided to retrieve it. She leaned over the counter, stretching to reach the... As she did, her eyes fell on an active laptop screen showing a paused video clip. The costume had landed partially on the keyboard. As Elaine... "What were you doing?" the clerk asked Elaine in an anxious voice when he saw her behind the counter. "Oh, I'm not snooping," Elaine said quickly, straightening up. "I was just trying to get the costume that slipped onto your desk. I was just trying to get it back." The clerk rushed to his laptop, his face flushing. Elaine continued, "Sorry, but who was the man that came here earlier?" "Which one?" the clerk asked, though his hands were already moving toward the laptop. "You know, the one before us. Not long ago, the man with the Volkswagen car." The clerk's demeanor changed instantly. The group chat title read "Scary Fun Party" in bold letters. What made Elaine's heart skip was seeing the name Nathan in bold text within the chat box, surrounded by several Yahoo Messenger emoticons that made the name stand out prominently. "You were really snooping," the clerk accused, slamming the laptop shut. "I could report you to the police for this." "No, you don't understand," Elaine said urgently. "My missing son from 10 years ago was named Nathan. Why is that name there? Tell me," the clerk scoffed. "You're a crazy lady. What's wrong with the name Nathan? Anyone can be named Nathan. Do you recognize him?" The police are still searching for Elaine's son, and just this morning, they uncovered a lead that points to that man's father. The clerk visibly palled. He was shaking now, clearly scared. "What does that have to do with me? I've got nothing to do with this. I just sell stuff." Elaine leaned in. "You had a video clip of him, and you acted like you knew him. What exactly were you talking about when you mentioned Nathan?" Donna glanced at Elaine, then back at the clerk. "Because the evidence we found this morning suggests that man." He opened the laptop again with trembling hands. "Look, I only sold him costumes and gear. If you don't believe me, just read the chat message, but please don't call the police." Elaine and Donna leaned in to read the Yahoo Messenger conversation. The messages talked about a surprise for Nathan, mentioning the need for full, top-tier fear visuals and enough strobe for full impact. There was also an address listed where they were planning to meet. "So, you must be friends to get invited like this," Donna observed quickly, writing down the address. "Yes, we're friends," the clerk admitted, "but I didn't know anything about a missing boy. None of that." "Thank you," Elaine said. "I need to let the police know about this." "Please, no police," the clerk begged. "The boss will fire me. It's not easy for me to find a new job. I've been trying to live a good life." Donna finished writing down the address and looked at the terrified young man. "If you've got nothing wrong to do with this, you won't be in trouble." Elaine was already pulling out her cell phone. She dialed the police station, her hands shaking with a mixture of fear and hope. "This is Elaine Whitmore," she said when someone answered. "I need to report something related to my missing son's case. I've discovered a video clip and chat messages that mention my son's name, Nathan. There's an address where something is happening tonight." She gave them all the details. The clerk slumped against the counter, looking defeated and terrified. The clerk looked very anxious, his face pale as he watched the uniformed officers approach. His hands trembled as he stood behind the counter. Detective Morrison was among them, and Elaine immediately went to him, explaining everything that had happened. As she spoke, other officers had all. "We need to investigate first." One of the officers approached them with the address Donna had written down. "Sir, this location isn't too far from here, just a little bit outside town near the woods area." "We'll reach out to Walter Griggs," another officer said, already heading to make the call. "Let's go," Detective Morrison said to Elaine and Donna. "You can ride with me." They climbed into the detective's unmarked car and headed toward the address. The radio crackled to life as they drove. "Detective Morrison," the dispatcher's voice came through. "We've got confirmation from Walter Griggs. He admits the address is his long-abandoned vacation house, an old family property near Ash Hollow that hasn't been used in years. However, he denies any." "Copy that," Morrison replied. The drive took them out of the suburban areas and toward more isolated roads. The sun was already setting, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples. The trees grew denser as they approached the location. Finally, they turned onto a narrow dirt road. Ahead, they could see the property, a boarded-up, semi-abandoned cottage surrounded by overgrown weeds. The scene was hauntingly still in the fading light. "There's the Volkswagen," Elaine said, pointing to the green car parked haphazardly near the house. But Elaine couldn't, not when they might be this close to Nathan. She and Donna quietly exited the vehicle and followed at a distance. The officers approached the cottage carefully. The front door was unlocked, hanging slightly ajar. "Police!" The cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the floorboards creaked under their feet. As they moved through the hallways, Elaine suddenly heard something. Strange voices and laughter coming from somewhere behind the property. "Do you hear that?" she whispered to the nearest officer. The officer nodded and pointed toward the back of the house. Through a broken window, they could see flickering lights in the woods. "Stay behind," the officer told Elaine firmly. "You cannot go any further. For your own safety and for the sake of case integrity, you need to stay here." Elaine reluctantly stopped, watching as the officers exited through the back. What followed were sounds of genuine fear and confusion, then cries and shouts. The police radio chatter increased. Elaine could hear them requesting backup and a medical unit. Her heart pounded as she strained to understand what was happening. Another officer appeared and ushered Elaine and Donna outside the house. "For your safety, please wait by the police cars." They stood in the growing darkness, anxiety mounting with each passing moment. Then, they saw them. 5 men were being led out of the woods by the officer. "Who are you?" he demanded. "You didn't know anything. You ruined everything." "I'm Nathan's mother," Elaine said, stepping forward despite the officer's warnings. "And I think you're the person who kidnapped my son." "We're just having fun." Derek spat on the ground in disgust. The officers quickly dragged him and the others to the waiting cruisers. As the vehicles pulled away with the arrested men, another officer approached Elaine with an urgent expression. "Ma'am, There, illuminated by police flashlights, she saw him. A young man crouched near a still smoldering fire. Then slowly, the young man lifted his head. His face was streaked with tears and dirt, his expression confused and frightened. He was sweating excessively, despite the cool evening air. Elaine gasped. Even through the changes of 10 years, even as a 18-year-old instead of the 8-year-old she remembered, she recognized him immediately. The shape of his eyes, the curve of his nose, the way his hair fell across his forehead. This was Nathan. "It seems he's under the influence of a hallucinogen," one of the officers said quietly. "His pupils are dilated. He's clearly terrified and deeply confused." Elaine could see how badly Nathan was trembling. She took his hand in hers, holding it steady. Elaine's heart broke at his words. What had been done to her boy? "Nathan, listen to me," she said firmly but lovingly. "There are no zombies. There never were any zombies or experiments. The world is not ending. Whatever Derek told you, none of it was true." With infinite patience and the help of the officers, they slowly coaxed Nathan to his feet. He clung to Elaine, still looking around fearfully, expecting monsters to leap from the shadows. "He's definitely still under the influence," one paramedic confirmed. "We need to transport him to the hospital to identify the substance and treat him properly." At the mention of hospital, Nathan became agitated again. "No hospital? They'll turn me. They'll experiment on me." "Shh," Elaine soothed, stroking his hair like she used to when he was small. "No one is going to hurt you. The doctors just want to help you feel better." The paramedic looked at Elaine. "We need to give him something to calm him down. It's for safety protocol during transport. We're waiting for Walter Griggs to arrive." "I want to speak with that man," Elaine said, torn between her need for answers and her need to be with Nathan. "I know," the detective said gently, "but your son needs you now. There will be a chance to talk to Walter later." Elaine looked at Donna, who had approached the ambulance. Her friend nodded in agreement with the detective. "Okay," Elaine said. Then turning to Donna, "I need your presence with me, Donna. Please come with us." "Let the doctors work. We'll take good care of him. Someone will come get you as soon as possible." Elaine and Donna were led to a quiet waiting room away from the main emergency area. The chairs were uncomfortable plastic, the walls a sterile beige, but Elaine barely noticed. She collapsed into a seat, the events of the day finally catching up with her. You never gave up hope, and now you have your son back. Time seemed to crawl as they waited. Elaine found herself replaying every moment from the woods. Nathan's terror, his confusion, the way he'd looked at her without recognition at first. What had that monster done to her baby? Finally, a doctor in a white coat entered the waiting room. He was an older man with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Mrs. Whitmore?" he asked. When Elaine nodded, he continued. "I'm Dr. Peterson. I've been treating Nathan." "How is he?" "But that can be treated. We've moved him to a private room, but he's still resting while the drugs work their way out of his system." "Can I see him?" Elaine asked. "Soon," Dr. Peterson promised. "Let's give him a little more time." The doctor left, and shortly after, Detective Morrison arrived with another officer. His expression was serious, but not unkind. "Mrs. Whitmore, Miss Parker," he greeted them. "Could we speak privately? There's a consultation room we can use." They followed him to a small room with a round table and several chairs. Once seated, Detective Morrison, Elaine leaned forward, desperate for answers. "Derek said he was proud when he finally took Nathan 10 years ago," the detective continued. "It was during Nathan's 8th birthday party." "Yes," Elaine confirmed, her voice shaking. "It was the biggest birthday party I'd ever thrown for him. We invited all the neighbors and their children to Briarwood Park. So many guests came. The children were playing in the garden, on the wooden jungle gym, in the small butterfly garden." Her voice trailed off as she remembered that perfect day that had turned into a nightmare. Derek openly admitted that he believed Nathan was. "How did he take him?" Elaine asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Derek was 21 at the time. He approached Nathan under the guise of being a cool older friend. He invited Nathan to play a secret spy game in the woods. Nathan, being adventurous and eager to befriend someone older, followed him. Derek sedated him with allergy medicine he'd taken from his father's kit and carried him out through the back edge of the park undetected. Nathan always wanted a father figure he homeschooled him and had fake IDs too. "A basement," Elaine whispered, horrified. Derek told Nathan that his mother and everyone from his birthday party had died, eaten in a zombie attack. He positioned himself as Nathan's protector, keeping him hidden from the zombies. He fed him an apocalyptic narrative that the human race was dwindling, that there were only small groups of survivors left. The boy believed him completely. But as Nathan got older, he wanted to go out and help. "That's why the party," Donna said, understanding dawning. Exactly. Derek would give Nathan hallucinogens and arrange elaborate, scary zombie setups in the woods to frighten him back into hiding. Nathan was a teenager who'd barely been out in the world. None of them knew Nathan was Derek's prisoner. They thought they were just bullying some neighbor kid. "That's so messed up," Elaine said, tears streaming down her face. Donna held her hands tightly, offering silent support. "What about Walter?" Elaine asked suddenly. "Did he know?" Detective Morrison's expression grew complicated. "Walter has told us everything and has requested to speak with you if you're willing. We can listen to his explanation together." Elaine considered for a moment, then nodded. "I want to hear what he has to say." The detective left the room and returned minutes later with Walter Griggs. The elderly man looked. "I swear to you, I knew my son had issues, an obsession with children since he was young. I knew something was wrong with him, but I never thought he would go so far as to kidnap a child." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "When I was still serving as a police officer, I was always busy. I left Derek with his grandparents often, We were never close, not even as adults. Then why were you trying to hide that Game Boy this morning? Elaine asked, her voice hard. Walter flinched. When you recognized it, I knew Derek must have done something wrong. But I couldn't believe it when you said your son was kidnapped. I was just trying to protect him. I thought maybe he'd bullied someone or scared them somehow. There were online images of children I'd once found on his computer. He was always obsessed, but I never imagined he'd taken someone. I didn't want to believe it. The old man's voice broke. I sincerely apologize for how I behaved this morning and for my son. There aren't enough words to justify his actions. He will be punished. Elaine nodded slowly, processing everything. They were all shocked and shaken by the revelations. We've begun processing Derek and his friends, Detective Morrison added. Also the store clerk. His name. A knock on the door interrupted them. Dr. Peterson entered, a gentle smile on his face. Mrs. Whitmore, Nathan has awakened and is asking to see his mother. Elaine stood so quickly she nearly knocked over her chair. She followed the doctor down the hospital corridors, her heart pounding. Nathan's room was dim, the curtains drawn. He was sitting up in bed, looking small and lost, despite being 18 years old. When Elaine entered, he looked at her with uncertain eyes. Nathan, she said, but the zombies. Derek said the world ended. He said you were eaten by zombies. Oh, honey, Elaine said, taking his hand. It's all made up. Every bit of it. There are no zombies. The world didn't end. I've been looking for you every single day for 10 years. You're safe now. Everyone is safe. Dr. Peterson spoke from the doorway. Nathan will need to see a child therapist. The psychological trauma of his experience is significant, but we're hopeful he'll recover. Elaine never took her eyes off her son. I'll be with you every step of the way, she promised. We have so much to catch up on. 10 years of birthdays, Christmases, first days of school. We'll make new memories together. Nathan squeezed her hand tentatively. I want to believe you. I want to believe it's really over. It is, Elaine assured him. You're home now. As she held her son for the first time in a decade, Elaine reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A mother's love had never wavered, never given up. Through 10 years of darkness, she had held on to hope. And now, finally, that relentless love had brought her